Welcome to Smashing Success Stories. I am your host, Karen. I'm a speaker, trainer, and consultant. This podcast is meant to inspire people who want results without compromising who they are. This is for folks that want to stay true to themselves while living in a world that challenges our humanity. So welcome, humans, champions, legends, to Smashing Success Stories. I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad we're doing this together. Let's get started. This is one of my favorite topics, and it's a big one, so this is going to be part of a series. We're talking about mindset, and this episode is focused on the concept of what we feed grows. We're going to talk about things like what we're drawn to, more confirmation bias stuff, breaking cycles, and more. As always, you're going to get some solutions and an action plan at the end. So let's go ahead and start things off with a quote that was shared with me during a seminal part of my life. I don't know what you've been thinking, but if you keep on thinking with that stinking thinking, you'll keep on getting what you've always got, because you keep on thinking what you've always thought. Do you ever get pissed about something and just stew in it, and the more you talk about it and think about it, the more it just sits and festers? Talking about stuff is supposed to help, right? So why does this happen? First, yeah, absolutely, we need to talk about things. The whole point of getting it out is to clear space for the stuff that matters. There's a shift that happens, though, and it happens when we either, one, get into the solution, or two, when we're receptive when someone gives us helpful advice and provides us with a solution. Both of these things, though, are rooted in something very important: the willingness to resolve the thing that's bothering us, to take ownership of our part, which is our mindset, and focus on that instead of fixating on the problem. Anyone can fester in the murk of annoying things, but you're not here because you want to be annoyed or because you want to linger in that mess. And if you are, that's fine. Rage posting, it's a thing. I totally understand. The algorithm doesn't care, so hey, live your best life. But you're here to hear a message, I would hope. So I'm going to share this quote from Eleanor Roosevelt. Great minds discuss ideas. Average minds discuss events. Small minds discuss people. That's what we do here. We discuss big ideas. We focus on solutions. So let's get to the solution, which we will. But first, context makes things more palatable. So let's go ahead and start there. The main concepts we're going to discuss in this episode. I'm going to share some insight about how this topic got on my radar. We'll discuss core concepts, the challenges that we face, how to create new patterns of thinking by breaking cycles and overcome biases, and then you'll get an action plan. So how did this topic get on my radar? So I fully admit that I understand the quote, what we feed grows, comes from a story, and we will talk about that story, and I'll link resources in the show notes, but it wasn't shared to me by the story initially. It was shared to me by one of my mentors. I found this mentor during a very difficult stage of my life. And as with many messages, I had to be completely broken for these lessons to be imparted on me. I had just been in an accident that should have claimed my life. My doctors and physical therapist were shocked that I had survived the accident, that I even walked away. And although I have permanent damage from what had happened, I am still able to do things at full functionality. I'm actually in better shape now than I was in my 20s. And a lot of it is because the healing that took place, and I truly believe that the vast majority of it is because, one, I surrendered when the accident happened and thus my body was relaxed. Two, I have a passion and love for living life. I am a vivacious person. Three, while I'm not afraid of death, I am also not in any rush to get there. And four, I got a lot to live for. And five, I know my purpose. That's why we're here. This is what I'm doing. But when I was broken, you think that I was ready to be like, oh, everything has meaning. Everything's so beautiful. No, I was furious. I was sad. I was in a lot of pain. But because I was down and on my knees, I was in the best position to look up. And my mentor would share her insights, and I was receptive to hearing it, Because when you got nothing and the only way to look is up, you start searching for things and then shit starts clicking. Also, my mentor, she has also been through some difficult times. She's also lived through prosperous times. She has a very difficult job. She's a recovery room nurse, and she has seen people make wonderful turnarounds and awesome recoveries, and she's also witnessed tragedies. She shares a message of light and hope, but it's rooted in some realism. I feel she's an emissary of light and wisdom, and that insight comes from a higher place. And I'm going to be very clear here. I'm not going to be super dogmatic about that last phrase. And I'm not going to put a definitive name on it. I totally understand that this can be a touchy topic. As a queer person, I totally get the negative connotations and associations that come from specific definitions of what that higher power is. However we interpret it, whatever it means for us. But I will say this, I know it's real. It, they, them, she, he. The term itself isn't important. The energy knows exactly what it is. And believe in it or not, it's there. I've been into stories of near-death experiences. I find that term to be a bit of a contradiction based on the experience, because even though it's called a near-death experience, the people who share their insights technically had lost life for some time. There's a channel on YouTube that I've been into called Coming Home. I'll link it in the show notes. And I'll also share my favorite episodes that I've watched so far. My favorite theme of the 4 episodes that I'm sharing is that none of these people were super spiritual before they had their experiences. One was a scientist and an atheist before her death experience. And it's really cool hearing how, even though these people, as far as we know, hadn't met or talked about this, they all share some common themes. Also, if you know of somebody who had a near-death experience or a healthcare worker or caregiver that has a story witnessing somebody going through this, I'd love to have them on the program. Feel free to nominate them. You can go to smashingsuccessstories.com/nominations or just go to smashingsuccessstories.com and hit the nominations link on the top navigation panel on the website and fill out the form. Please and thank you. The thing about why I'm really drawn to these stories is because of the patterns. And honestly, it's been super affirming because the common threads discussed in these stories and experiences, they all flow in the same vein as my own ideas about what's out there. Or I guess the more correct way to put it is what's here with us in this weird temporary meat space and what's beyond physical form and how those things all work together in harmony. And I understand how this may be perceived, and I don't want to alienate anybody, but I do want to be completely blunt here. This isn't some woo-woo wishy-washy stuff. When you felt it and experienced it, it's real, and when you talk to other people, you understand that it's real. So it's either, cool, great, I am open-minded, and I accept that this is something that is real, or I am averse to learning more. That's it. There is more than just this. Not only because there has to be more than just this, there is. The problem that we run into, there's more than what's just here. It's as simple as that. And I'm frankly not trying to alienate anybody. So I would suggest coming at it with this mindset. Either, oh wow, yeah, I'm open-minded to the fact that there is something out there. Or actually listening to people who have insight to share on it. Shutting down, look, live your best life, whatever you got to do to survive. But I think you're here for more than just shutting down and not being willing to learn about new ideas. Especially on a podcast episode called What We Feed Grows. Focusing on mindset on a program called Smashing Success Stories. Anyway. Look, again, I understand how powerful that aversion is to this particular topic because a lot of us were messed up in the heads. Not because of the topic itself, but because how systems of oppression have appropriated these beautiful ideas and packaged them into gross things like organized religion, patriarchy, white Christo-fascism, and capitalism. Spirit was never meant to be sold. Nobody was meant to make a profit off of this stuff. So, yeah, while the focus here is on solutions, ideas, and the good stuff surrounding us and finding love in everything, especially within ourselves, and also about making peace with the world around us. But that love, that connection, it becomes even more profound when we acknowledge and accept the world, the shit, the conditions, and the drama around us. Because that's real too, right? The good moments, realizations, and connections happen when we find love, when we find the fertilizer in the shit and focus on that. We are here. Now. And while we all know that there's something inevitable that awaits all of us, and by this I mean this mortal end, it reminds us that the present really is a gift. I'm not sorry for that pun. I've used it before and I'm certain I'll use it again. Get over it. But look, I know life can be hard. I totally get it. I could make this entire podcast about what I've been through and how life had done me dirty. But that's not my purpose and it's not my message. And I don't believe those things happened to me for a specific purpose. That whole ideology about things happening for some serendipitous purpose, it completely diminishes our intelligence. And it diminishes the whole purpose of having free will, which, like life, is a gift. So I don't believe those things happen for a reason. Bad things happen because others have free will. And we have free will too. So what we do about it is an exercise about how we can use that gift that we've been given. The gifts, free will, and life itself. So let's talk about mindset. And then we'll talk about feeding it what it needs to thrive. We'll start with a quote. This one is from one of my favorite books, written by Viktor Frankl, and the book is called Man's Search for Meaning. Everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms. To choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. To choose one's own way. Viktor Frankl survived the Holocaust. He, his wife, his parents were taken to concentration camps. This was written by a man who had experienced some of the most unspeakable, inhumane things to ever have occurred on this planet. And yet he has this beautiful insight to share. It's an incredible book. I highly recommend it. Link will be in the show notes to go to bookshop.org, and you're welcome to purchase the book. Of course, you're welcome to borrow it from your local library or listen to the book on Libby or borrow the ebook on Libby. But the whole point here is that despite the circumstances, we have a choice to make meaning out of all of these things happening. Again, not that these things happened for a reason, but what are we going to do with them? This phrase, what we feed grows, it's something that is taken from The Tale of Two Wolves, which is a story that has been passed down generations in indigenous culture. And very generously, the Nanticoke Indian tribe shares this story on their website. The link will be in the show notes. But in brief, the story is a conversation between a young person and a wizened elder. And the young person is asking an existential story about humanity and what lives inside of us, the battle inside of people. And the wizened elder says that there are two wolves inside of us and explains that one experiences the bad things like anger, sorrow, greed, arrogance, and the other one is more positive. It has hope, kindness, faith, humanity. And then the grandson asks in this battle, well, which of these wolves wins? And then the elder replies, the one that you feed. This is incredibly important when it comes to mindset, because knowing that internally we have various perspectives, knowing that the world also shows us things that challenges our humanity, that makes us question our faith, that makes us wonder if hope is a facet of insanity. So it's important to feed the wolf that thrives with what we want. And we will get into that when we get into overcoming biases and breaking the cycle. The next example, it comes from Les Brown, who I say this firmly planted 10 toes down. Les Brown is the greatest speaker of all time. And one of many things I appreciate about Les is that when you learn his story, born in an abandoned building, and he was adopted, and he was raised in essentially poverty, but his mother showed him love. He had love of his siblings, but he made it happen for himself and became very successful. And even though he was labeled as somebody who wouldn't go far in life when he was in school, he did an incredible job. And he also speaks from the heart, and he shares an incredibly powerful message. So Les Brown shares this story about the twin brothers. And look, I looked for half a day to try to find exactly where it's from. If you find the reference, please let me know. I'm pretty sure it's from one of his keynotes or one of his audio compilations. If I find it, I'll link it. But in the meantime, my apologies. I know it was Les that shared it. But anyway, it's about the twin brothers. One had become a very successful business person and made it out there in the world. And the second twin was caught in the throes of active drug addiction. So when one of the brothers was asked, "How did you get here in your life?" he answered, "Well, life had its challenges. So many things happened to me. So I had to rise above it and make something of myself." And the second brother was asked the same exact question, and his answer was the same in that these things all happened, and the latter part of that answer was, "So this happened to me." One made things happen in his favor, and the other got caught up in the situation. Now, this is an example, and it's definitely a story, and it definitely doesn't diminish how powerful drug addiction is. What it does do is that it shows us that when we have that commitment to a solution, we can really make something powerful out of this. And I will say this about addiction, it's not the end of the story. You talk to anybody who's in recovery who has a success story, they will all tell you about the thing that inspired them to get their shit together and to get clean. And I don't know what happened to those two brothers, but I do know that the hope of recovery is possible for the one that was caught up in the throes of addiction. So that's not the end of his story. And I say that, also I didn't intend to go that route, but also I'll share this. I got faith in that man because I also know what recovery looks like, and it's a beautiful thing. Things change. We can change our lives by changing our mindset. Things aren't as fixed as we perceive. There's also a great parable of two travelers. There is an elder waiting at the entrance of the town when the first traveler comes through and says, "What's this town like?" And the elder goes, "Well, what was the previous town like in your experience?" And the traveler shares, "Oh, everybody was rude. It was not a great place. Just not having a good time. Didn't like it. 0 out of 10, not recommended." I'm paraphrasing. And then the elder said, "Well, you're going to find the same here." And the traveler went about his way. Second traveler shows up, asks the elder the same question. "Oh, hey, what's this town like?" And the elder replies, "So what was the last one like?" And the second traveler says, "Oh, it was awesome. Everybody was so welcoming and open, and I had a wonderful time, and I was actually kind of sad to leave." And then the elder says, "You guessed it. Well, you're going to find the same here." This is also something that anybody who has ever gone car shopping can attest to. You ever notice that when you have picked your make and model or make and models of the car or cars that are on your radar, you ever notice how you see more of that particular car on the road? Yeah, that's confirmation bias because our mind had discovered something. We made our minds up about something, and now we see it everywhere. Also, you notice how on the internet, how sensational posts pop off and how so many negative comments and angry reactions will then show us more of that type of content. Also notice how rage bait and anger content is viral, and some people go looking for it. They look for conflict to be mad about. I have a theory about this. I feel that it's people feel a sense of power, and it gives us some semblance of control. Especially in a world where everything's gone kind of wild, and we're freaking grabbing at straws here. Also, not for nothing, this is my phone. This is my internet. I paid for this. So, because I paid for this phone in which these wild things are in it, yeah, I feel like I got some control over it. That is my experience from the past. I don't engage in rage bait anymore because I feel that so much of it is bots anyway. And also I understand that people know that negative messages and rage bait perpetuates attention. And I don't feed an attention-seeking monster. I starve it. Thank you. So let's talk about the challenges that we face. It's about our biases. People, things, the world, everything shows up how we expect them to. The world shows up how we expect it to. This, again, is confirmation bias, meaning based on our experiences, observations, patterns, and preconceived notions, based on what our lives have revealed to us, what's been fed to us, and what we believe, we see specific things because we look for them. It doesn't help that we are living in an era where everything is damn near an absolute in polarity. And even saying that phrase where everything is absolute, I understand there's some nuance here, but stick with me here. We as a society are moving more toward beliefs and feelings are facts, and it separates and polarizes us versus getting different perspectives because of the way we live now. We're more isolated and we're not as connected as we were in communities, villages, and tribes. When I say perspectives, I'm not talking about listening to the voices of the intolerant. I'm talking about listening to people that are going to teach us something. If somebody is objectively wrong and they're coming from a place of belief and feelings instead of actual facts, I am not receptive to it. I'm not hearing it. I am absolutely not giving these people a platform. And again, I'm not feeding that monster. It's challenging to live in a world that objectively has so many issues. And I'm not even going to get into the geopolitical hellscape we're living in. But we need to take care of ourselves and water our plants and feed our families and maintain some semblance of sanity. Even have some hope, faith, and a positive outlook. This isn't some weird woo-woo Pollyanna shit. This happens by accepting people for who they are, accepting ourselves for who we are, and accepting reality for what it is versus how we want people to be, versus how we want ourselves to be, versus how we want things all around us to be. We cannot force our will on everybody and everything, but we can work on ourselves. Let's talk about overcoming biases and creating new patterns of thinking. Who's here has ever heard of Roger Bannister? Roger Bannister is the first human on record to have gotten the 4-minute mile. Nobody on record had done it before him. So once he did it, more people did it. Meaning once Bannister believed it was possible and trained for it, because the belief is one step and action absolutely has to follow that belief. So he believed in it and he trained for it and he did it. And then after he did it, more people were empowered to do the same. And they did too. And now there are folks that are even running sub 4-minute miles. Les Brown also has a great talk about eyesight versus mind sight, meaning judging by appearance versus how we interpret what we see. Again, I'll link it in the show notes. It's important to be curious and open-minded about the world around us. I'm going to throw a link to an episode of Nicole Byers' podcast, Why Won't You Date Me? Yeah, I know. This is the second time I'm referencing Nicole's podcast. I love it, and I watch it every Friday, whatever. And she had Trixie Mattel on there. Two people that I love, that I follow, that actually were on a show together. Yeah, of course I'm going to watch it. So Trixie talks about dating. Of course, on a show called Why Won't You Date Me? What else would she talk about? Mayonnaise? But anyway, in brief, when Nicole asked Trixie, so what's kind of like the longest you've gone between like your cycles of dating and relationships? Trixie said that she doesn't stay single for very long, like maybe a year or so, and that was by choice. And then she goes on to explain it's because she's not super rigid about what she wants, and that's a problem, especially in, she says it, I say she, Trixie is a character that is a drag queen, that a cisgendered man has created. So when I say she, I'm talking about Trixie, the character that also happens to be a cisgender man in the real world. And when he is dating, he is a gay man dating men. And as Trixie explains, in gay culture, so many of these men are closed-minded about what they're given versus being open to what's actually available to them. So Trixie explains that she's open to what's possible. I also imagine this is why she's done well in relationships, and also why she's done so well as an artist and as an entrepreneur. Another example is from Gabby Bell, who has an awesome channel on YouTube. Again, I'll link her YouTube in the show notes. And this particular quote comes from a video called "The Kaya Asylum is Thinly Veiled Misogyny." It's a really good video. But this is a quote that Gabby shares. And this is in reference to people being themselves and doing something because they believe in themselves. Gabby says, "I just don't see it being a bad thing to be kind of a delusional tryhard because people think it's cringe until everyone else has bought in." I'll never forget a conversation I had with a friend of mine. We were standing in the kitchen one time, and she's a 10. She's a 10 out of 10. She's absolutely gorgeous and cool person. Her come up has been amazing to witness, and she has an incredible following. She's doing phenomenally in her business, but this is before she really took off and before I embarked on my journey. And it's just two of us. We're just, shooting the shit in the kitchen. And I said to her, it's been really cool witnessing your come up. Like, I am so proud of you for believing in yourself and for actually doing it, because she started gaining momentum, and witnessing her success even that early on was really beautiful. And then she leans back and she looks at me and she goes, "I have always appreciated and respected how true to yourself you are. You are the most authentic person I have ever met, and it inspires me to try to be more authentic myself." And then she goes, "I even took out my extensions." It just still cracks me up. But girlie, with or without the extensions, you're still fabulous. But what I love about her still, is her light. And she definitely is meant to share a positive message. And just hearing that from her, it meant a lot. And also she shared that she's inspired to do the same. And she really has. I'm so proud of her because she can laugh at herself. She doesn't take herself too seriously, but now she's like, she was doing okay then, and now she is absolutely crushing it. I mean, I might need to bring her on the program. She's a very cool person. But hearing that, it meant a lot, right? Like, I am who I am, despite the external things. I mean, of course, it's great getting validation externally, but when you believe in yourself, the external validation just confirms what we already know about ourselves. And the external criticism, it doesn't hurt the same way. I mean, it still isn't great, even if it's meant to be beneficial and we can learn from it, but still it's like, who? What? So let's go ahead and address overcoming some biases even further. Mark Rober has a really awesome TED Talk. Mark Rober, if anybody's seen his YouTube channel, you know that he's an engineer, and some of the videos that he's super popular for are science, technology, engineering, and mathematics videos. That's what his channel is about. But some of the more popular videos are when he sets up decoy packages to put on people's stoops, by their doors or whatnot, and then when those packages are stolen by thieves, when the packages are opened, glitter comes out, it's being recorded on video, there's fart spray, and over time he's just fine-tuned this package, and he really has it down to a science. But when you watch his TED Talk, I will link it in the show notes, Mark opens his talk with a sensational visual. He is also very engaging as a speaker, and he closes it with literally a bang. But the meat of his discussion is about how do we get kids' attention when teaching sciences in school, especially when we are competing with things like TikTok and having to fight for folks' attention. And he spent years and committed, it's like a $60 million project about developing a curriculum for science teachers. And the base course materials are the same, but the method has evolved because we as a society has evolved. Classrooms have evolved. The way that we teach people of that age has evolved, and we have to catch their attention. Otherwise, this, what would seemingly be a dry topic, would be lost on them. Also, whenever we're trying to introduce a new idea, it helps to connect it or even sandwich it with something that's familiar. The song Hey Ya by Outkast, an absolute veritable freaking banger. It wasn't popular when it was tested. When the song went through what at the time was a success algorithm, the record label was like, yeah, this has all of the earmarks of a successful song. But when it was tested to audiences, they absolutely rejected it. I feel that Andre 3000 is one of the most innovative artists of our time. I feel that he is a genius. The Love Below and Speaker Box, I'm going to give Big Boy his due as well. Incredible album. And this song, it's phenomenal. And I'm so glad that they found the way to promote it and the way to air it so that it became successful, so that that message was shared with more people. But it was not instantly successful. So it was made popular, and I'll go ahead and I'll list the resource and some information about how this happened. But the reference is from a book called The Power of Habit, and I will link bookshop.org's page on where you can buy it, or again, you can rent it from your local library or borrow it on Libby. But the way the label got the song to be popular is when they went to radio shows, they worked with them to find songs to sandwich it with. So this song has kind of like little feelings of funk and a little bit of R&B and some rap, and then played the song and then played something after that had some similarities to the song. So that way people heard something familiar and then heard Hey Ya, and then song after it was something familiar. So that meat in between was something that was a little bit more palatable. And it took off. There's a gentleman on Instagram, his name is Chase Green. Again, I'll put the link in the show notes. And he has this quote that it's from an Instagram reel I'll share with you. But the quote says, "You can have something that is truly great, but if it's not familiar, people will not buy it. People will not take advantage of it. People will not enjoy it." And it is in regard to the context of what we're just talking about with Hey Ya, but that goes for so many things in life. And because we're taking ownership of our mindset, that goes for us as well. We'll talk about, for lack of a better term, exposure therapy and putting ourselves in situations and environments which will open us to those blessings. But another example I want to bring up is busking, also known as street musicians. I'll also link two conversations. One is from Reddit, another one is from Facebook. But in brief, anybody who has done busking, anybody who has talked to a street musician, they will tell you that the way to get people's attention is to play a cover, and then at some point you hit a rhythm where you feel comfortable to play your own music, and then play cover. And the kind of sandwiching technique here is because, again, we know that when something is new, people might resist it, but when it's associated with something that they can relate to, that's important. But also, as the artist, it's important to know the crowd. One comment is from a user, Lady with a Harp, and she talks about reading a crowd, how location matters. Like, for instance, if she's in a busier part of town, she can play peppier songs and more energetic stuff. But if she's going to a more chill place like a local marina, she'll play slower pieces. Another comment comes from user FutureBoy314, and something that he shares about is that, yeah, absolutely, you're going to want some covers. And people will basically vote with their money. And that's how you know that you're doing the right thing. Keep doing that thing. But the person who has to sit through your entire set is you, the artist. You got to feed yourself. So don't hesitate to play your own stuff if that's what you're feeling. Another example, this comes from a Facebook post that I'll link. These two folks are talking about busking, and somebody says some might like original music, but most don't. They want to hear music that they recognize. Reply says, people don't know what they want. They want what they know. Leaning into the familiar. This is part of our survival instinct. But also, in order for us to evolve, we have to be receptive to something new. One of my favorite examples of something going viral is the song Soft by Motionless in White. You ever seen those cat videos where you hear a really hard beginning of a song and then you hear, "You're mine, motherfucker," and then somebody grabs their cat and starts giving it tons of sweet kisses on their kitty's fuzzy little heads? That song is Soft by Motionless in White. Another example of how a song going viral helps people get more open-minded to something phenomenal is The Summoning by Sleep Token. One of my absolute favorite songs, and kind of like Hey Ya, it goes a lot of different places, and it's amazing. But it going viral helped people be more open-minded to Sleep Token, who any Sleep Token fan will tell you, what genre music is Sleep Token? The genre is Sleep Token. They're not confined to a genre. But the band went extremely viral on TikTok, and reaction videos helped a lot. I want to particularly thank Will Ramos of Lorna Shore. He did a collaboration on the album with Elizabeth, also known as the Charismatic Voice. And Will, Sleep Token is his favorite band. And he does a bunch of vocal covers of Sleep Token songs, and a lot of people have really enjoyed them. Also, there's an awesome compilation reaction video that I'm going to share in the show notes of The Summoning, and it has like over 80 reaction video content creators, and the video itself has over 300,000 views. And yeah, sure, the bands went viral, Soft, Motionless in White, The Summoning by Sleep Token, but what's interesting about this is that the people who found them stuck around. I mean, they have an established fan base. As of this year, Motionless has been making music and touring for 20 years. Sleep Token, 10 years. 7 years they were touring and creating music before they went totally viral for The Summoning. So these bands had been making quality music, and they have a very loyal following before they went viral. But what made them stick around, what made fans stick around, is people are drawn to the music and the message. And if it takes something going viral for people to explore them and learn more, I'm here for it. I also find, and we'll get into this in just a moment, that healthy fandoms are often comprised of people that are othered. But also because what engenders this audience is a message and something that is dedicated for folks that are open to it, and also provided by people that are generous and accepting. I'm not going to say tolerant. I'll say accepting, because there is a difference. The thing about the internet is that it's given people a platform, and that platform sets the tone for how folks behave and how they respond. Why do we connect with folks in these interest-based groups? Let's go back to those examples of Sleep Token and Motionless in White. These are bands that tackle difficult issues: mental health, relationships, non-conforming things, tackling systems of oppression. And the people that are drawn to that love that message because it's something that they themselves need to hear because they have experienced things like discrimination and oppression. I have found that both fandoms are comprised of members of the LGBTQIA community, people of color, feminists, men who are open-minded, people on every end of the spectrum that totally understand what it's like to feel othered. Other examples of healthy fandoms that I have been a part of: there is an awesome group called Buffering the Vampire Slayer. It's a group that the hosts of the podcast by that name, Kristen and Jenny, have put together. And what's great is that this group has amazing camaraderie. Like, even so, where people feel so safe that we have exchanged addresses for Secret Santas, and some of us have even been pen pals. And the reason why we are so open and accepting is because, well, we don't gatekeep, but obviously haters are not going to be drawn to something that's very queer-focused and very feminine-focused. We want people who like that stuff to come in, or people who are at least open-minded and curious about it. Another example is Nicole Byer. Look, I'm a Nicole stan, so she will come up a lot. Plus, she has podcasts that I listen to, so check her out. She's awesome. But Nicole has a ton of fans that are women, LGBTQIA+, people of color, again, feminists, including men. And she also gets feedback from organizers and facilities managers about how her fans are so polite, they're awesome tippers, and the staff just really enjoys the vibe of the fans. I was also recently at a show for the performer Lucy Darling, and she also shared that she gets feedback from staff and people who manage the properties that her fans love to drink, but they're great tippers, they have a nice time, and they don't leave a mess. And when I was at the show, we saw people of many different abilities. Of course, women, again, open-minded men, gender non-conforming individuals, LGBTQIA, theater kids, and I even ran into a Sleep Token fan. I was wearing a Sleep Token shirt. I saw him as I was coming up the elevator. I saw that he had the Take Me Back to Eden tattoo on his forearm. So he talked about music and the tattoos and da-da-da, and just had a nice time. But again, really healthy fandoms, really cool people in these spaces. And I have found that there is a distinction between these particular fandoms and the people that are drawn to them versus something that is more broad, even though the two examples I'm about to bring up are very awesome things. Two video games with the best stories I have witnessed in media. Yeah, that's heavy-handed, but that's how good these stories are in these games. Mass Effect and Cyberpunk 2077. The problem with these fandoms is the same as the issues that we run into in like the Star Wars fandom, where people are so fixed on what their idea of society and gender roles and so forth, even though the material in the fandoms all have diversity and representation. The problem, especially with the earlier stuff, like Star Wars and Star Trek, is that they were very white savior mask focused. Even though the representation and symbolism was in them back in the day, media literacy is an issue. And alas, we see this in many fandom spaces. Love the work, fandom can definitely be problematic. With that, the internet, life all around us, there are horror stories all around. Anybody who's lived in this world and has been on the internet can attest to the fact that there is a ton of toxicity out there. I will say this though, the internet has given people a platform, and the village blockhead that in another era would be left alone to stew in their dumbassery can now have pages that they can monetize and leverage AI content to boost their blockhead posts full of bad takes and goodness knows what else. And people, friends, these platforms and the folks in them, and I'm especially talking about the content creators and thought leaders and such that have bad takes, I'm here for it to an extent because they do cure my imposter syndrome. So yeah, sometimes when I need a boost of motivation, rage posting, exposing myself to things that cure my imposter syndrome might be the push I need. The trick though is not getting obsessed with it. And when I find that my feed is getting a bit cluttered with the drama and the bullshit, I gotta look to see how I got there. And it's always because somebody I follow has commented. And that only perpetuates more of that drama in my feed. So yeah, I'm going to block the original poster, but I also have to protect my peace, and I'll unfollow the person that is continually stoking the flames. A little bit here and there, that's fine. Who hasn't been guilty to replying to a rage bot or partaking in this negative discourse? I am certainly not an exception, but I'm not doing it as often. And sometimes I write it out and then delete and then move on. But I need to unfollow the people that are consistently engaging with it. I love drama, but y'all, I got shit to do. So let's talk about the action plan. Create an environment in which the things you want will flow to you. I am going to put a resource up on smashingsuccessstories.com/mindset. I will include it in the show notes to this episode as well. But this resource is going to consist of how to create the mental space to bring in the things that we want in our lives. One phrase of putting it is manifesting. But to be clear, what we are doing here is claiming the things that we want so that we can put on the right prescription and see those things in the world around us, because it's going to open our minds, hearts, spirit, and eyes to those blessings so that we can then pursue them. This may be difficult. So sometimes what helps is by making a list of the things that we want yeeted out of our life, things that we want to exit from our lives. And once we get that out of our minds, that space is clear, and then we can start thinking about the things that we do want. By the way, if you are ever in a situation where you're around friends, family, loved ones, and you get into this conversation of, what do you want for dinner? And you get into, I don't know what you want. I don't know. What do you want? Start with this. If you can think of at least one, I like to give a list of 3 things that you would be open to, that's going to do one of 2 things. 1, it's going to give the other party options, or 2, it's going to give that person an idea of what they don't want. And I really like the latter because it also helps for this example, but also I do find in my experience, and I've used this especially in relationships and among coworkers that were very picky and very indecisive. I'm a great decision maker. Is by giving them something that maybe they don't want, it helps set the table for them to start thinking about things that they do want. Sometimes by telling somebody what I don't want, I can then be like, okay, well, if you don't want that, and then I can give them a list of 3 things that might be more appealing to them. Use these tricks, especially for those of you that are dating or in relationships. It's a really good tip. Let me know how it goes. But more on how to create an environment in which our garden can grow. How to create that mindset and draw the things into our lives that we want. Confirmation bias, but also casting a wide net so that we can receive our blessings. Be around folks that think, talk, and behave like you want to. Get involved in groups that are centered on things that you enjoy. Consider the vibe that you want to be around and the types of conversations you'd like to take part in. This will help you in your search to find what you're looking for and attract what you want. Remember, you can't be everything to everyone, and it's the same for other people. Think about what you want for yourself, for your life, for your social circle, and what you want for yourself. Again, if this is difficult, start by making a list of things that you want removed from your life. Review it, and then make a new list of things that you do want. The bad stuff going away helps clean the slate and gives us perspective. When I do this, I do a burning bowl. I burn the old list, the things that I want removed. And then take it a step further, I'll even do a cleanup and remove any physical associations with the things I don't want. Then I'll make the list of the things that I do want. Do the worksheet on my website. Again, smashingsuccessstories.com/mindset, and it will recalibrate your attention towards the things that you want. You'll also start turning down the things that don't serve you. You can do the worksheet either by yourself, with a friend or loved one, or schedule a day and do it with a group. I've done this every way that I've recommended. That's why I'm coming at you with this personal insight. All of these work. And sometimes it helps being in a group for accountability purposes. Sometimes when we're stuck, we find strength in numbers. Also, when I got together with my friends and we worked on our lists, I was around a bunch of my wonderful girlfriends. And there's something to be said about being in a group, having snacks, laughing, having cozy pillows, and just making a wish list. It's wonderful. The energy, the vibe, and also bouncing ideas off of each other. It's awesome. You don't necessarily have to be around girls. This isn't a gendered thing. Anybody can have this. But being around people that you feel good and inspired and safe with, that can also be very helpful. If you put together a meetup or a group or anything like that, I'd love to see or hear about it. Tag me on Instagram or tag Smashing Success use the hashtag Smashing Success in any post that you share on Instagram, or tag me on YouTube. I'd love to see you getting together and working on these lists. Also, asking, volunteering, finding spaces that are focused on the thing that you're interested in. This is all an exercise in mindset. Remember, in the judgment episode, there's a personal inventory guide, and it's important to know thyself, knowing what your assets are, knowing some of the things that you need to work on. Knowing these things about ourselves, it creates a space to, 1, accept ourselves for who we are, and 2, as we embark on the journey of improving our lives, it helps to know who we are and to have a foundation so that we can build upon it. The stronger the base, the higher the building. Strong foundation. That's what we do when we know ourselves. And again, a reminder here. When we embrace the fact that acceptance doesn't mean that we have to like something, then we can actually move forward. This concept applies to people, to ourselves, to things, the world around us, to reality itself. The more we accept, the less we fight. The less we fight, the more strength we have for the things that actually matter. And it creates more intellectual and emotional bandwidth for us to actually do the work, to take care of ourselves and to others, and to discern between making a stand when it matters and when we can make a difference. And also, when it's okay to just let folks be loud and wrong. Y'all, we got better shit to do. Ask yourself, what do I want? And what am I feeding my mind and spirit so that when things get hard, when it doesn't happen when I expect it to, when I lose faith, what am I feeding my mind so my spirit and my soul believes that it will come to me? And am I creating the circumstances in my life and in my mind to draw these things to me? What steps am I taking to bring this shit closer to me, to have it, and to claim it? Rooted in reality, but also thinking beyond what the eye can see. What is the vision in my mind for what I want? What am I telling myself? How am I convincing myself that it will absolutely happen? Am I projecting into the future, channeling into myself in another reality, and pulling that shit here, now, into this reality? Look, it's real somewhere, right? If it's in your mind, it's got to be real somewhere. And forget about anyone else saying otherwise. It's your mind. It's your job to claim it and make it yours, here and now. The trick here, though, is you gotta believe this for yourself. Is it good when other folks believe it? Sure. Everybody loves validation. Does it hurt when they don't believe? Yeah. Everybody hates rejection. It sure can hurt. But it is our truth. And our truth doesn't have to be the same for everybody else. No. When we believe in something and believe in ourselves, we also happen to give others permission to do the same. And their truth is exactly that. It's theirs. It may be different from yours, but guess what? Y'all can both be right. It is important here to see the distinction between what we know is meant for us. It's something for us that we pursue, that we want and believe for ourselves, versus trying to change the external factors, variables, and most importantly, other people. Our dream, that vision for ourselves, that goal, it's for us. It's not meant to change people. It's meant to bring things into our lives so that we can live as our highest selves, so that we can live the dream and become that vision for ourselves. In another episode, we're going to dive deeper into the importance of knowing how to read a room. And the takeaway, spoiler, is for us to have the wherewithal to witness the environment and acknowledging the part we play, what to look for, know when to speak, and learn how to act accordingly. I bring this up because it's important to distinguish between manifesting and doing the work for our goals versus trying to change external factors. Want more context on this? Listen to my rant at the end of the last full episode called Progress. I really cook in that one. I'll link in the show notes. Consent is a big deal. We can't force ourselves or our ideals onto others. We can share ideas, but we can't force them. Work on yourself and give others the grace they need to figure themselves out. This message is for everyone, but not everybody listens to this program yet. I'm going to leave you with some mantras. Feel free to modify these and make them your own. I have already accomplished every goal that I've had so far. Fear is a lie. I know I can do this. My dream is attainable. Reality confirms that my goals are achievable. Here and now, I am claiming what is mine. And so it is. Final thoughts. I want to close each episode moving forward with this. What is something that you learned this week? As you start thinking of things, again, feel free to tag me on Instagram or YouTube or use the hashtag #SmashingSuccess. Something that I learned this week. I learned to be okay with working out for the sake of working out. No ambitious goal, no body type that I'm aiming for, just working out because it's good for me and it feels good. Because I deserve to feel good. Keep learning. Keep growing, keep expanding your views and your mindset, and embrace the goodness that is heading your way. And so it is. Thanks for being here. New episodes go live every Monday and Thursday. Subscribe, share, and follow Smashing Success Stories on Instagram and YouTube. Bonus content and exclusives are available to patrons. Check out patreon.com/Smashing Success Stories for membership tiers and details. And always remember, whoever you are, wherever you are, just know that you are loved and that you are important. We are in this together. Till next time.